The view is just wonderful up here. This is one of the great sights of British football, I think, because not only have you got a great view of the pitch, but you've got this great view of the East Stand, which is one of my favourite pieces of grandstand architecture. The thing that I love about it is just all the little details. I mean, there are little horseshoes built into the ironwork. This area that we're sitting here, this was absolutely revolutionary for its time. As we can see here, it had seats with armrests and it was padded, Dunlopillo padded armrests. This was luxury. It's full of very interesting details, and one of my favourites, and I think perhaps the most instantly recognisable in Arsenal terms, is this screen end here, the glass with the tapered bars leading down. And they had thought that the canopy that extends right round the outside of the stand would be sufficient to protect people from rain at the end, and it very quickly became apparent that that wasn't the case, and so they put the glass in almost as an afterthought. And yet, if you were to show a picture of just that single feature to any football fan around the world, they would instantly recognise it as being Highbury. This is the balcony wall of West Stand. The idea was very simply is to make it look like you were in the theatre. This is just a bit of concrete rendering, but it looks like the sways of the balcony in a theatre, like the material draped over the edge. Very simple thing, but that adds to the whole aura of you coming really to the West End to theatre rather than to a football match in the middle of North London. This is the restaurant in the upper deck of the West Stand, opened in 1932, and at that time this was a pretty novel idea, the idea of coming to a football match and having a meal before kick-off. That was quite something. The early 1930s were a time when cinema, greyhound racing, speedway and lots of other attractions were starting to become affordable to the average person in the street, and so football always had to try those little bit extra, and at the same time of course the grounds had to develop.
In 1936 Highbury's East Stand received a similar transformation.
The old stands at Highbury are not good enough for the cup winners, so the Arsenal authorities are breaking them up, pulling them down and throwing them around. On their site will arise gorgeous new structures, fit for the supporters of heroes to live in.
On its completion, it became the most elegant place to watch football from in the country. Sumptuous both outside and in.
This is the famed Marble Hall. Ironically, very little marble here at all, but what you've got here is a beautiful terrazzo floor with the Gunners symbol, another piece of wonderful corporate branding from the 1930s. And you can imagine the effect that this had, not just on visiting directors, but on players when they were coming to sign for Arsenal.
Well, I first came to the ground in 1946. And when I walked into the hall for the first time and saw the old manager's bust on the marble floor, I mean, they were like grand hotels, weren't they, the East and West Stand?
It was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. I'd never been to a ground, anything like that in my life. It was the most exciting thing that ever happened. And I wouldn't have cared what had happened, but the fee or whatever it was, I would have signed there and then for nothing.
I remember when I was signed from Wimbledon by George Graham. I walked in through the doors and everyone had told me about the marble halls and the great tradition of the club, and just stood there in amazement because, you know, I'd been brought up in playing for Wimbledon, who started in the old third division, so you can imagine what the grounds were like and the pitches were like, and the dressing areas, and just to come here and be shown around, I think I couldn't quite take it in, really.
It's really hard to say what makes it so special. It's the crispness of the place, the fact that as you come through those front doors, history stares you in the face, and you feel proud to be part of it. And I've been here all my life, and I still feel that way when I come in.
The architects, William Binney and before that Claude Waterlow-Ferrier, their brief was to create an environment really which was more like a West End theatre, but at the same time that you are entering the palace, the great London palace of football. This was an attempt to make Arsenal invincible within London. Chelsea, Chelsea, West Ham, Tottenham, all the others could not compete with this.
There's no other stadium like it in the world. You know, it's totally unique. And I've had the good fortune to be in the marble halls a few occasions, and it's just, there's something. I mean, I guess most fans say that about their grounds, but you know, we know we're right. This is a cut above the rest.
I was fortunate enough as head of youth development to have an office in that building as well, and it was just a pleasure to come into every day and just to go out and sit in the director's box in June and July when there's nobody there and you can just see the grass being mown and watch what was going on was a very good feeling as well. The whole place is special.
As listed buildings, the east and west stands will survive to become part of the Highbury Square housing development for the area. This has been part of the long-term plans since the start of the new stadium project.
We are very excited that it will regenerate the whole of this area. The history of the club will virtually be retained because of the buildings being retained, so we're very pleased with that.
It was, of course, a foregone conclusion that vast crowds would go to Highbury to see the Arsenal-Chelsea third-round cup tie replay. As everyone knows, this also resulted in a draw. And they say that already 120,000 people have paid some £14,000 to watch these two inconclusive encounters.
Match day was when Highbury really came to life, and although the fashions and faces changed in its 93-year history, the thrill of going to the game remained as exciting as ever. Highbury is in every Arsenal fan's blood.
I suppose it's almost like my second home, because it's a constant, you know, when everything else is changing in your life, you know, in terms of work or family or anything, it's the one place you go to, and you sit in the same seat every week, and it means security in a way to me, I suppose.
This is my second home. I think I've visited this building more than any other building that I haven't lived in. I think it's growing up with a place, coming here. Everyone wanted the same thing. One minute you're at school arguing with West Ham fans and Spurs fans, and the next minute everyone's an Arsenal fan.
You know, this is my home. It's Turnstile. What a lucky Turnstile. But yeah, huge. I mean, it's in your heart, like everything else that you sort of hold dear to you.
My favourite part of the ground, the goal in the North Bank. Yeah. I've seen some great goals there. That'll be my favourite.
Oh, it's blasted!
I think it has to be North Bank, lower left to the left-hand side of the goal, because that's where I stood for 19 years, I guess. I mean, just getting in those days. I mean, if you turned up, you get in. So it could take you 20 minutes to walk down or just squeeze down.
The North Bank witnessed a wealth of great moments, and for many it became the heartbeat of the club on a match day. However, it didn't always enjoy such prominence.
This is the North Bank stand, formerly known as the laundry end, of course, in the old days. And there used to be a laundry behind here that would steam all over the back of the fans during the course of a game. Now, the original clock was not there. It was at this end, at the old laundry end, and Herbert Chapman recognised that a lot of fans were being drawn away from football towards greyhound racing, which was basically electronic. It had lots of new gizmos attached to it. So he decided to install the clock. But the FA, of course, were extremely angry about this because it was a 0 to 45-minute clock. And they argued that this would compromise the integrity of the referee. What would happen if they played 46 minutes or 44 minutes? You'd have a riot on your hands.
Oi, ref! Oi! Don't keep blowing that whistle. Blow your nose down there.
So reluctantly they changed it to an ordinary clock as we see today. And of course now